Hey everyone, you're watching KTAL News Now. I'm your host, Anthony Mocklin, and today is Tuesday, which means it is Tech Tuesday here at KTAL News Now, where we will be covering a bunch of different tech-related news and topics that are happening around the area, as well as nation and even worldwide. If you haven't, or if you aren't familiar with the show, we stream every day, Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. on KTALnews.com, which is also where you can get all of your breaking, local, and trending stories from around the Shreveport, Bossier, Texarkana, Marshall, Texas. We have the whole region covered, so be sure to stick with us. But like I said, today is Tech Tuesday, so we'll be going over a bunch of different topics, and one of those involves Amazon. They have made a bunch of headlines in the last few days or so where and New York Times article just dropped this bombshell that they plan to replace over 600,000 workers with robots by the year 2033, which is pretty insane. And they had this in mind in order to increase productivity and efficiency in their warehouses where they pack and sort all of their packages for online shopping. And they said they do this in order to sell twice as many products, and eventually they plan to have their warehouses with 75% robot workers and 25% human workers, which is pretty crazy. And since 2018, the Amazon United States workforce has more than tripled since that time to 1.2 million workers, and it looks like they're trying to cut down on that and pretty much wipe out at least half of that by the year 2033, which is very unfortunate for all those people who have those jobs and are trying to just feed their families. So it really, really is unfortunate that they are taking this direction. And they said by 2027 they're making conscious efforts to avoid hiring around 160,000 people that they would otherwise need, that they will no longer need with their increasingly populated robots in their warehouses. And they said they're doing so because it would save about 30 cents on each item that is picked and packed and packaged that they would otherwise spend on a human, which again is very unfortunate, but it's just the sad reality of things. And another thing that I found very interesting in the New York Times article was that they also had like these safeguards in place to mitigate the potential fallout from the people that are going to be laid off in these communities that are struggling. And they said that Amazon plans to participate in a bunch of different community events like parades and Toys for Tots to, I guess, improve their public image. The quote they used was to appear as a good corporate citizen, so that they try to stave off some of the flack they receive for firing all these people, which I think people will see right through that. I don't think it'll work, but it's just the sad state of affairs at Amazon. But they're also using more inclusive language in their warehouses, where instead of using the words automation and AI, artificial intelligence, they are using the words advanced technology, and they're calling their robot workers cobots to, I guess, cooperate with humans in the warehouse, which, I mean, you can try to humanize them all they want, but, you're taking real jobs from real people, and it's just not what, no one is going to buy that or buy into that, I should say. And for those of you who might be shocked, it really doesn't come as a huge surprise, considering this has been in the works for over a decade now. Their first big push into robotic or automated manufacturing and warehouses started back in 2012, where they bought the robotics maker Kiva for $775 million to invest in creating these robots that are used in their warehouses. And those first models they kind of look like robot hockey pucks that move throughout the warehouse, and they would carry these towers of products to and from the warehouse instead of having the workers go, all the way across the warehouse to bring something to the other side of it. So, I mean, yeah, they do make people's lives easier, but these are people's livelihoods we're talking about, where you're taking away these jobs. Where are people going to have the money to raise a family, send their kids to school? Like it has very real implications that are not very good. It does not have a good outlook. But in Shreveport, actually, they opened their most advanced warehouse yet last year, where they became so efficient that once an item was in a package, a human being pretty much never touched it after that. And they have over 1,000 robots in that warehouse. And since implementing that many, they pretty much had to cut down on a quarter of the workforce that was previously there that are humans. And by next year, they plan to cut that even further to half. So, it's more efficient from a business standpoint, but like I said, you got to think about the workers and just what you're gonna like. I'm curious to see if there's a plan in place to help those people, but if not, I mean, it's just really, really tough, especially in the job market right now as a whole. It is a really, really tough spot, but they plan to copy this design that the Shreveport facility has in over 40 facilities across the country by the end of 2027. And in order to, I guess, teach people on the job to help deal with these automated facilities and workers, that they're making previous, packers and shippers into what they call robotics technicians. And on the bright side, they are paying them more. So their starting pay is $24.45 an hour, which is not too bad. But again, they have to go through all this rigorous training and previous knowledge that was not offered to them. So, they have to learn a lot more in order to do so. But at the same time, these jobs are going to be more scarce because they're cutting down on their workforce. So there's only going to be a handful of people that can actually get into these jobs and make that kind of money. So it's really unfortunate because the current warehouse workers right now, I believe, are making around $19.50 an hour. That's their starting pay, which is really good for, a warehouse worker. But again, they're trying to eliminate as many of those jobs as possible, it seems like, and only make sure that the humans in the warehouses are the ones that are monitoring the robots and, seeing, like, maintaining them and just making sure that they're working efficiently. But this comes in the news of just a wider trend of layoffs in the tech space in general, where over 150,000 people were laid off in 2024 in the tech industry, and there have been 22,000 since the start of this year that have been laid off in tech, which is very unfortunate. It's with the boom and rise of robotics and AI and just everything that are replacing these lower level jobs that were previously offered to people as a way to work their way up, but now they don't have that entry point, and it's becoming really, really tough. Like I said, the job market is in shambles right now, so it is just very, very tough. But Amazon also announced, to add fuel to the fire, that they're going to start cutting 30,000 corporate jobs starting today. As of this morning, emails were going out, laying off people, which is very, very unfortunate. And while this may seem small in terms of their total workforce, which is around 1.5 million people, it's a small percentage of that. But in terms of their corporate workers, it's around 10% of their corporate employers, where they had over, around 350,000 corporate employees, and they're laying off, 10% of them almost. It's pretty jarring, to say the least. And this would be the largest job cut at Amazon since 2022, where they laid off 27,000 corporate employees. So really, really tough right now in the job market. Like I said, I know we're always thinking and moving forward about the future, but you have to have some sort of plan in place to account for this lack of employment, and just a way for people to make money and feed their families, because at the end of the day, everything is super, super expensive. It's only getting more expensive. And the fact that you're taking away these jobs from people, this way of life, their income, it's going to be really, really tough to see the fallout from that, unfortunately. But looking over more so towards the AI space with OpenAI, and ChatGPT, their large language model, which has caused quite a stir recently in terms of mental health, where there were people that were reportedly going through insane mental health crises and divorces and even being driven to suicide after talking through these language models for such a long time. And OpenAI, their parent company, actually released a statement for the first time, or an estimate, I should say, of users who reportedly were dealing with these mental health problems, each on a weekly basis. And according to OpenAI, 0.07% of people showed signs of psychosis or mania, and 0.15% of people showed signs of suicidal thoughts, plans, and tendencies, which, it doesn't seem like a huge amount, 0.15% or whatever, but according to OpenAI, over 800 million people use ChatGPT weekly. So just taking the percentage from that, if you're running the numbers that they provided, that means on a weekly basis, on any given week, that there are 560,000 people that are showing signs of mania or psychosis while talking to ChatGPT, and there are 2.4 million people that are showing signs of suicidal thoughts, of tendencies, or they're planning to do so, or that they are developing this emotional attachment to the large language model. So really, really concerning stuff. According to them, OpenAI has been working with hundreds of physicians, psychologists, and psychiatrists to try to better improve ChatGPT's response to these concerning signs. And according to them, their latest version of ChatGPT, GPT-5, has reduced undesired answers by 39 to 52%, which they say it will hopefully direct people to the help they need sooner before any harm is done to them or they take any drastic measures or even take their own life, God forbid. But, this has its limitations because all of these benchmarks that they used in this trial and this study to try to improve their model, it was their own benchmarks that they designed. So it's unclear of what the real world outcome will be from all of this. There's no true way to know if these people will actually seek help earlier or faster than they normally would if they are going through this manic state or this mental health crisis. Because, if you're going through that, you're not in the right state of mind, obviously. So who's to say that they will actually think logically and seek the help they need before it's too late? So it's really hard to tell what's going to happen from there. And, from a world and a society where we were already going through this sort of mental health crisis, this really does not help. That it pretty much poured gasoline over the whole thing and expedited the entire process. But, it might only get worse from here, especially with generative AI. And OpenAI is a huge, contributor of that. And it's gotten to a point where generative AI videos are becoming indiscernible from reality, and people are questioning whether the videos they see online now and social media are even real. And it's becoming so believable and so convincing that, people are second guessing themselves. It's gotten to a point where law enforcement, particularly in Shreveport and Texarkana, have gotten involved now because there was a video that was circulating of an emergency situation, and the Texarkana, Arkansas Police Department had to make a statement and denounce that the video was fake and it was not real, despite there was a fake account going around where it was claiming to be real, but they had to assure the public that it is not real. And clarifications on generative AI videos are being made in Shreveport too, and KTAL's Grace Jensen has more on that.
Produce video and such, it is important for us to ensure that it is not artificially generated. We have to maintain that public trust, that public transparency, that what we're putting forward hasn't been edited in any way.
With the growing popularity of generative AI platforms being used to create videos, local law enforcement are having to remind the public that what they post is real. In a recent social media post, the Shreveport Police Department shared a video of a vehicle theft suspect caught on an interior dash cam with a caption that read in part, quote, "We know some of you are going to think this is fake or AI, but no, this actually happened." Corporal Chris Bordelon says that AI needs to be used with caution.
When we talk about the use of AI and AI in public safety, there's many good uses, but we also have to be wary that it can present certain challenges and problems.
One of those challenges can be with older generations and younger children not knowing how to tell if a video they see is AI generated. Dr. Subhajit Chakrabarty with LSU Shreveport says there are a few key things to look out for so you don't get fooled.
So the eyes, the lips, then even the pixelated value views, if you look at boundaries. So those are certain things and known algorithms which do it.
And one other topic that you can find more information about in regards to trying to figure out what is and what isn't real and how to spot generative AI, that can be found on our website at ktalnews.com. But our next topic involves Nike, and they just recently unveiled what they're calling Project Amplify. And that is where last week they unveiled reportedly the first powered footwear that is sort of like an e-bike, but for your feet, where instead, like on an e-bike, it has a sort of like pedal that goes for you, but it's still, you still have to pedal the actual bike. It just gives you that little bit of a boost. And this is what they're aiming to do with footwear. And the way it works is there is a robotic brace that boosts your walking speed. And they're doing this with commuters in mind, not so much professional athletes. And they're calling it a second set of calf muscles, basically, that help you just give you that boost to walk better if you are dealing with an injury, or you just want to have that boost to get active, but you don't really go that fast or anything like that. So I like what they're doing here. I think it's a net good if it does hit the consumer market, because like I said, if it can help elderly people who are struggling to just get up and active, or if you're a tourist who is just going to be on your feet all day and walking around, and whether it's at Disney World or an amusement park, or you're just visiting a city and you're just walking all around everywhere, and that could help you. I could see that being a benefit. As far as the athletic part of it, I don't really see athletes using this, especially if I don't think they will ever use this in competitions or anything, because that's a form of cheating. It's an enhancement. It's the same way as performance enhancing drugs, except that this is a physical thing that you're putting on your body to help you move faster. It's unclear if they are using it for runners or if it's walkers, or they didn't really specify that. But like I said, the way it works is there's an ankle brace that is on there with a motor and a drive belt and a rechargeable battery that you can wrap around your foot, and it will be. It looks kind of funky. I wish I had a picture to show you, but it's pretty discreet in terms of what all the components that I just said. It would look a lot bigger than it is, but it actually is not, and it looks pretty sleek in terms of as much as it can be physically possible, I guess. But Nike apparently, like I said, with the distinction between athletes or walking and running, it is aimed at athletes, but Nike defines athletes as anyone with a body. So it's very, vague in terms of who it's targeted for. But according to them, it is targeting individuals who run a 10 to 12 minute mile pace. So, it's not the fastest in the world, but, it's just the casual person who wants to get out and active and exercise through running or fast walking. It gives them that boost, almost like one of those airport little things that you just kind of sit on, and it's flat, and it's almost like an escalator but on the ground. I don't know the official term for it, sorry, but it's kind of like that, but as if you were walking or running, or like a light jog. But like I said, the applications here are great if you are an elderly person or you have an ankle injury. if you're dealing with an injury, like a severe injury where, a doctor said you might never walk again, this could potentially help that. And because, like I said, if it does truly act as a second calf muscle, which does a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to walking or running, it could be a huge benefit to those who need it. But like I said, that's all I have today. Be sure to follow us on all of our social medias at KTAL News, and you can find all of our previous episodes on our YouTube page at KTAL News. But like I said earlier, we stream every day, Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. on KTALnews.com, which is also where you can get all of your breaking, local, and trending topics from around the area. Have a great rest of your day. I'm Anthony Mocklin, and thank you for joining us.